What's up, everyone? Of course, welcome to another episode of the Victorious Ones podcast, the place where gaming meets comics, meets sports, meets movies, as well as inspiration. Of course, I'm your host, King Von Jr. You can follow me on social media on Twitter/X at 301 King Von Jr. You can follow the show's podcast on Twitter/X at Victory Pod 1. You can also follow me on Instagram at Mr. King Von Jr., just like it says at the bottom of the screen. You can also follow the show's the podcast Instagram page at Victorious Ones Podcast. And of course, I'm the social media producer for the Unpopular Reviews wrestling show Perfect Plex Talk Radio. Of course, which takes place every Monday night at 6 p.m. And so of course, there's a whole lot to talk about, not just when it comes to wrestling as well as sports, but also in the world of pop culture and comics and whatnot. Just looking at the rollout that's that's been taking place. Of course, for those that happen to be watching by way of YouTube, of course, youtube.com/ at Von Rush Virginia. Please make sure like and subscribe for more great content as well. Where do I start? Of course, we have, as we like to say on Perfect Plex, a plethora, if you will, a smorgasbord, if you will. Right, my favorite word now. But yeah, like I said, as far as that, So of course, there's a lot to talk about. Like I said, the Bloodline. Of course, the original four. The big four Bloodline, if you will, reuniting. There's news that just got revealed about a new women's championship, women's U.S. Title, and of course we're going to talk about other things as far as of course Kevin Owens, Kyle Driver, Randy Orton, So like I said, as far as that, and especially when it comes to even outside that, look at of course I'm going to review the Luther Vandross documentary that saw this past weekend. And of course, the groundbreaking news about Denzel is rolling on his retirement plan, as well as other things as it pertains to the world of Marvel and just comics in general, things like that. So, but yeah, of course, one of the things I like to talk about, especially, like I said, it's a lot of ground to cover, if you will. So I'm going to go into NFL 11 now, I believe it is. Or actually, like week 10 just passed. So I'm going to give a brief recap, if you will. And of course, this past Monday was Veterans Day, and so of course, thank you very much, for those who were veterans, who sacrifice and give so much, of your life for this country, so that we could have the freedoms that we have now. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you, and your contributions, and they have not gone in vain. So, with that being said, of course, week 10 of the NFL, just wrapped up. So, of course, the Ravens defeat the Bengals in a very close one, 35-34 on last Thursday Night football. Of course, the Panthers defeat the Giants 2017 on Sunday. And of course, the Patriots defeat the Bears 19-3. 19-3. Of course, the 49ers defeat the Buccaneers 23-20. The Chiefs defeat their rival Broncos 14-16. The Bills beat the Colts 30-20. The Steelers, of course, beat the Commanders in a very close game, 28-27. If not the game of the week, really. Of course, the Vikings defeat the Jaguars 12-7. Saints defeat the Falcons. Vikings defeat the Jaguars 12-7. The Saints defeat the Falcons 2017. Chargers defeat the Titans 27-17. The Cardinals stomp out the Jets 31-6. Speaking again, stomped out the Eagles, stomped out the Cowboys. Just flew right through us, 34-6. Of course, the Lions defeat the Texans 26-23. Of course, and the Dolphins, the Dolphins defeat the Rams 23-15. Now, when it comes to the Cowboys, of course, Dak Prescott has officially undergone a season-ending surgery. Of course, as regards to ACL tear. I know he had a sprain. in the game against the Falcons after having that run. So yeah, so of course he's gonna have season-ending surgery. Of course, this team continues to tank, but that's all another story. That's neither here nor there. So now, when it comes to the world of wrestling, there's quite a bit. Like, if anything, there's quite a bit to discuss, and I'm going to get right into it. And so, of course, anytime I talk about the week of wrestling, I definitely want to start off with Friday Night SmackDown. All right. So now, let's get into it. This past SmackDown, which took place on November 8th. And of course, SmackDown opened up with a brief recap of what happened at Crown Jewel before Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso came out to kick things off. Of course, right as Roman was about to speak, Jey Uso's music hit as he walked to the ring. So, of course, Jey asked Roman if he wanted to hear what Sami Zayn had to say, which led to Sami making his way to the ring. Of course, the crowd chanted Sami Uso as they all stood in the ring waiting for someone to speak first. And Zayn said kicking Reigns was not done on purpose. Excuse me. Of course, Zayn said that kicking Reigns, of course, on the Crown Jewel was not done on purpose. The only reason he was there was to help out Jey, but he also admitted that it felt pretty special to be back in the ring, with all of them, once again. Of course, he said he was willing to go back to how things used to be, only if Reigns would apologize, but of course not to him. Of course, he wanted Roman to apologize to Jey. And of course, OTC walks up to Jey after a short pause. He said, "We're sorry." Then continued to say, "We're sorry." But Jey wastes his time. Ooh, wow. Oh man, that escalated quickly. Certainly let Jey waste his time like this. And so of course, Reigns called up Solo while Sami Zayn walked away. And Jacob Fatu showed up on the screen and said that the Sokoa doesn't work on Reigns' schedule. Oh, okay, all right then. Solo's a diva these days. Excuse me. Of course, it's a pretty solid segment, but so pretty much felt like a sort of a to be continued segment, if you will. Of course, I'm more on that later. Then we have Bayley versus Candice LeRae. The winner of this match is Bayley. It did feel pretty weird to see Candice LeRae without Indy Hartwell. Of course, for those that don't know, Indy Hartwell was among those that were released along with Baron Corbin. So of course, next up we have Pretty Deadly versus DIY, and the winners of this match, DIY. Of course, so as far as that, we could definitely start to see more signs of an eventual dissension among DIY. So of course, Ciampa finished the match by himself. He never even tried to tag Gargano. The match was over in less than 2 minutes, so not too much. But but of course, even before that, after back up for a minute, Randy Orton came out and called for Kevin Owens to come out so they could fight. KO came out on the stage, but didn't seem to be in a hurry to get to the ring. Eventually got there, and that's when the fight broke out. So of course, the officials tried to break it up. But of course, KO hit Orton with a pile driver. Which is a move that's been allegedly banned, as they say, for like the past 15 years or something, but not really, because I remember those episodes of Raw back in 2013 where CM Punk hit John Cena with a pile driver. Nobody really complained about it. But of course, KO, KO hit Randall with a pile driver, and of course the officials took Orton out on a stretcher as Cody Rhodes checked on him. Then we returned from the break, and that's when of course we see the match with DIY and Pretty Deadly. But yeah, in terms of this whole like a KO versus Orton thing going on, I definitely like the way that this story is manifesting, the way it's taking place, and the thing about it is, especially when it comes to a move like a pile driver, which is allegedly supposed to be banned, but of course with the KO to just throw the rule book out anyway, and just like, all right, you know what, forget about it. I'm still gonna do it anyway. But yeah, and also like I could could tell this is definitely a storyline injury that's going to keep Orton on the shelf, at least going into maybe, I would say, at the very least, maybe like, let me say, Royal Rumble season. So as far as that, just so by the time he comes back, they can definitely, excuse the expressions, or finish the story, if you will, and and just have, I guess, a breath of fresh air, if you will. Not saying that this feuds and like boring or dull or anything like that, but yeah, like I say, if anything, it was very interesting to see see KO hit with the power driver. Everybody talking about ban this and ban that, like as I said before, about especially when it came to the match with Punk and Cena from 2013, and it's very interesting because this past Saturday I just came across the other time on Twitter, and of course, in the aftermath of that pile driver, people talk, like there's somebody who brought up the video, which I rather not revisit anymore, of the infamous Owen Hart pile driver on Stone Cold that shaved years off of Austin's career, and almost like put a halt to like someone who's a fast rising star, someone who ended up becoming the biggest, most popular name in WWE history, if you will. The fact that the biggest star on their roster, of course, ended up being sidelined, or at least have his career shortened. But like I say, the thing is, it was very, like I said, if anything, the timing of it was very interesting to see, to go back and see that clip from that match. It's just like almost like having PTSD all over again when you're watching that. But yeah, but the thing is, the point, at least the point for me is that, what Kevin did to Randy was pretty much child's play, compared to that. But yeah, like I said, as far as that, I don't want to be long-winded about it. But yeah, next up we have Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton, and the winners of this match are Bianca Belair and Bianca and Jade. And so how can I say this? During the match, we did, of course, we did get to see, of course, we see a moment more so, of course, especially between Jade and Nia, and so of course, you saw Nia Jax continue to dominate. Jade is Bianca sat patiently in the corner for a tag, and of course, Belair and Stratton both tagged in. The EST began to dismantle, Tippy Time, Money in the Bank, and then of course, sorry about that, and of course, we saw outside interference, also, of course, eventually we saw Naomi run down, and we saw Candice LeRae interfere and push Belair off the top rope, and Naomi ran down and beat her up. Of course, the delay allowed Bianca to Tiffany Stratton for EST, for the pin and the win. Of course, because, like I said, once again, team, of course, Team Renaissance, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, of course, are winners by way of pinfall. And, I like, all right, here's the main thing that I wanted to say earlier, before I had that long pause. I like how WWE did a pretty good job planting seeds for an eventual Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill feud. And of course, I'll say that the seeds were planted even all the way back in January, when Jade had the dominant showing in the Royal Rumble, which she eliminated Nia by herself, and Jade looked like a straight up world beater, and so for her to be Nia's kryptonite, in the Royal Rumble, and of course, like I said, that this will definitely be a great feud in the future, and it's definitely giving me ideas for showcase mode on WWE 2K24. And so of course that's definitely one of the of course one of the eventual women's rivalries that have set up in the future, along with Rhea Ripley versus China, along with Bianca Belair versus Charlotte Flair. So of course, when it comes to the women's feuds, those are definitely the main ones that are on my radar right now. So yeah, like I said, if anything, I definitely like the way that they have, Jade face off with other sort of like powerhouse women, and I mean, of course, like WWE planting seeds for future rivalries that she could have, whether it's with Lash Legend, Nia Jax, and clearly, there are people that they're trying to plant seeds of friction between Jade and their very own tag team partner, co-tag team champion Bianca Belair. Excuse me. And of course, that feud is a given anyway. You know what I mean? So as far as that, like I said, of course they end up winning by way of pinfall. And now moving on to Motor City Machine Guns versus A-Town Down Under. The winners of this match, obviously, Motor City Machine Guns. I will say that also the final segment this week was Solo's Tribal Chief Acknowledgement Ceremony, and then of course after the break, Roman actually came out to the ring and stood along with the new Bloodline across the ring from him. Of course, OTC challenged Sikoa to a match for the title of Tribal Chief, but instead Solo challenged him to a War Games match. Later, Sami Zayn would be his fifth man. With the Bloodline attack range as Zayn looked off from the stage, and Usos tried to fail to save OTC. And of course, Sikoa orders Zayn to kick Reigns in the face again, but he ends up kicking Solo instead. And so, of course, after a very tense moment, Sami Zayn yelled with his finger with Usos to indicate that he was on board, and so did Roman himself. So this week's show was definitely dominated by Bloodline business, as much of pretty much this reflection of WWE itself. You know what I mean? So of course, in the end, the OGs stand out on top. OG Bloodline, as a matter of fact, WWE just released a line of OG Bloodline shirts. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? And so yeah, you know what I mean? Like I said, it was great to see the originals, stand out on top, if you will. And so next up, and also, I have to say, like I say, but of course, the main thing. Also, like I say, not just with, not just with the OG Bloodline standing on top as the winners, but a huge bombshell just hit, where on Friday, Nick Aldis, as I mentioned, of course, at the very beginning of this episode, Nick Aldis revealed that there was going to be a women's United States Championship, and so that's going to be, like I say, the main thing that's going to be very intriguing, very interesting. And so, for me, I would say some of the main candidates, at least my top 5 candidates for the women's U.S. title, would be none other than Queen Nia Jax herself, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, of course, the future returning queen, Charlotte Flair, and for it's worth, maybe even Kalani Jordan, or even though she's at NXT though, with that, or maybe even Bayley, for what it's worth. But the other 4, especially, I'm definitely looking forward to Nia, even though she's the WWE Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion right now. But of course, there'll be another accolade to decorate her resume. So of course, and plus, this is what so many people, especially fans, have been talking about for the longest time, for the women to have their own mid card championship. The same way the men have a mid card titles like a intercontinental title and the U.S. title. So it's only fair. It's only fitting that the women have their own mid card title. And of course, the very first one is the women's U.S. championship. So, and as a matter of fact, I was saying that Triple H definitely took notes from Shawn Michaels, because NXT were the first ones to introduce a women's mid-card title. And so it only behooved the main roster to have their own women's mid-card title as well. In this case, when it comes to SmackDown brand, they introduced the Women's United States Championship. I would like to see a women's IC title on Raw. I think that would be great, and also I think a women's mid-card title definitely opens doors for women who otherwise you would not, really see carrying the company like that when it comes to the main women's title. So I feel as though the second tier of women's wrestlers deserve to have their own prize to chase after. And what better one than a women's U.S. championship? So I would say biggest highlights are the introduction of the women's U.S. title, as well as the OG Bloodline staying in solidarity, all in one accord and reunited fully reunited. Next up, I'll talk about the best of Monday Night Raw, which of course, as I said before, took place on Veterans Day, November 11th. And so on the card, we have the Women's Tag Team Championship match with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez. We've seen it have an appearance by Bronson Reed, as well as a Gunther promo. Especially when it comes to Gunther versus Damian Priest. Sorry about that. Of course, Monday Night Raw kicks off with the Ring General's promo. So, of course, the Raw Heavyweight Champion got to kick off the show, poised to address his new number one contender, Damian Priest, a guy that he's referred to as street trash, talking about people like you, just talking down to him. Come to find out, that was originally an idea, a Bobby Lashley idea before he left for AEW. But the way Bobby came across was in very bad taste, terrible taste. But what's neither here nor there. Of course, before he could say much of anything, the former champion of the ring, during the ring general just say it to his face. Damian Priest told Gunther that of course the insurmountable monster who dominated WWE was no longer that. Gunther was indeed a shell of himself, and Damian definitely put Gunther in check. That was the Bronx side of Damian Priest talking. Especially when Damian knows that that he can easily knock Gunther out, and of course he referenced that. You know what I mean? Bronx Punishment Martinez definitely came out in that promo. And of course, pretty much Damian Priest read Gunther for filth. Talking about how just in reference to references to seeing Gunther being shaken up before, being vulnerable, and how he becomes less intimidating when he knows he's no longer in control. So when Gunther realizes that he is losing his grip of control, then he, that, of course, he's fair game. He's off the target. So before we go even further, the Slender Man, Luke Kaiser, interrupts. And of course, he's just talking trash about, Gunther's going to beat him and all that type of stuff, only for Gunther to cut off his reign. And so with that, Kaiser continued to antagonize Priest, and so only for Damien to just level him and knock him out cold. You know what I mean? And of course, as a testament to Kaiser's loyalty, that he was willing to take a punch for his ring general. So of course, the segment came to an end without the ring general denouncing any of the Archer Anthony's claims. He has yet to denounce the claims that Damien Priest made against him. And obviously, there's definitely a great segment that played on previous promo segments between Gunther and Damien, as I mentioned before. And so it's time to usually brash champion who's reeling from the loss that left him down himself as he prepares for former champion, more confident than ever. And how, of course, Gunther, remembered how Damien Priest, how Damien Priest had him on the ropes, and could have taken the belt away, if not for, Finn Balor. But of course, like I said, that's neither here nor there. But I'd definitely say this further established the story of the Survivor Series title match. It sets up, Damien Priest and Luke Kaiser later on the show. And a little Easter egg is that Damien Priest was actually rocking a Bad Bunny shirt. Of course, for those that know or don't know, Bad Bunny has a huge affiliation with WWE. Of course, he's no stranger. He's considering that him and Damien Priest, had that match in Backlash 2023. And who knows? This could be a sign of dissension within Imperium, especially with the way that Gunther shut down Kaiser's promo. The fans saying "ooh," so, as they tease tension between champion sidekick. As that friction continues to heat up. Next up, we have Damage Control versus the Pure Fusion Collective. The winners of this match, Damage Control. As we see a spirited comeback concluded, we have Scott delivering over the top moonsault and team momentum ahead of upcoming Women's World Championship opponent Liv Morgan. And so, and what's crazy is that backstage, Xavier Woods was actually wearing a Baron Corbin T-shirt during the backstage segment with Kofi Kingston. And of course, R-Truth and Pete Dunne, in the match made between Kingston and Dunne later on the show. And next up, we have of course, speaking of that, we have Kofi Kingston versus Pete Dunne. The winner of this match, none other than Pete Dunne. And after that, we start seeing more of that friction, more of that tension between Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. So he's all, if anything, I guess at this point, we're just riding this thing out as far as this new day breakup. And of course, for those of us that already know, pretty soon the New Day is going to have a 10-year reunion, and everybody's looking forward to that. You can tell that Xavier Woods was noticeably irritated and frustrated by the situation, and of course he is in company to ringside, and Xavier's proven that he can be a great heel, and has not even officially scratched the surface yet, if you will. Next up, Bronson Reed, of course, as he hit the ring for some promo time, and wasting no time, calling out Seth Rollins, mocking him, and of course, Seth answered the call. And of course, he brought Bronson ringside. Of course, the intensity was there, and it was always another great pull apart. Another great pull apart moment, if you will. And sorry about that. Of course, Seth Rollins said, Bronson Reed says he's not a competitor, he's a monster. About that. Anyway, but yeah, of course, Seth Rollins recovered and ran across, and they announced they could cut off an attempted tsunami by Bronson Reed. Then we have Damian Priest versus Ludwig Kaiser. And of course, as we expect, Damian Priest defeated Ludwig Kaiser. Anyway, sorry about that. Of course, where was I? But of course, as I was saying before, of course, as we expect anyway, Damian Priest defeats Ludwig Kaiser with South of Heaven, and of course, there's another great showing from Damian. He's definitely more than ready to challenge the ring general, for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then of course, afterwards we see Sami Zayn telling Seth Rollins that he was the only guy who could team up with the OG Bloodline at Survivor Series. And of course, there's definitely a line that should have rubbed Kevin Owens the wrong way when it comes time to rekindle this rivalry with his best friend. And so clearly this clearly did not sit well with Seth Rollins either, because his whole thing has always been about to destroy Roman Reigns, call him a tyrant, and he knows what Roman's capable of, and so of course, if anything, he'd rather not associate with him like that. And of course, Seth expressed his disappointment in Sami, that Sami Zayn of all people would reunite with the Bloodline, especially after what Roman had put him through before. So it's looking, so pretty much it's looking as if Sammy's got some type of like Stockholm syndrome type of thing going on or whatever. So yeah, of course, later on, Solo Sikoa, Solo Sikoa tried to recruit Seth Rollins to join his team Bloodline, but Seth Rollins kept the same energy and said, Seth Rollins kept the same energy and said, I refuse to work, I refuse to team up with Roman Reigns wannabe. So yeah, you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Like I said, if anything, if anything, I feel, I feel the same sentiments as Rollins, even though he says he's out from this, sort of feud, if you will, but at the same time, I wouldn't, work with a wannabe either. It's just, side note, of course, I'm keeping notes of the NBA right now. Of course, as the Grizzlies are about to play the Lakers, coming up pretty soon. And but yeah, of course, as far as that, Seth Rollins, like I said, kept the same energy all across the board. Of course, he'd rather not team up with his arch nemesis Roman, guy who he has history with and and knows what he's capable of. But at the same time, he's not going to team up with somebody who's an obvious knockoff. You know what I mean? So yeah, so of course, like I said, much respect to Seth Rollins for keeping the same energy. Anyway, of course, like Karrion Kross, of course, we see a segment with he threatens the Miz. Of course, after the Miz was released by the YS6, Karrion Kross in the Final Testament stepped up to him, confronted him. Of course, the A-lister said he went a leave of absence, but of course, Karrion instead threatened to break his legs with Aikman and Razor, dragging the former WWE champion to the ring. And of course, this is definitely a great segment, if you will. Especially at least with the way that the Miz delivered. You know what I mean? And of course, Karrion Kross, demanded to know where the Wyatts were. You guys answered in short order as the YS6 appeared. Of course, we see Miz blast Eric Rowan with a steel chair, to which Uncle Howdy, laughed before the brawl took place. Of course, we see the Final Testament lay out the YS6 as Karrion Kross embraced the Miz, and we saw, of course, even with that, of course, we see Karrion Kross, Miz, and Authors of Pain looking on with the sense of fear. Sense of fear is a beaten down Uncle Howdy lab to close out the segment. It's a very interesting development, if you will, and of course with Miz and Karrion Kross clearly working together to sucker the YS6. And we found out that Howdy had appeared unsurprised, even overjoyed by what took place, what had transpired. What that means for Kross and Miz remains to be seen, but it'll definitely be great. Got something with Uncle Howdy explaining how and why he knew to expect that type of betrayal coming from the Miz. And of course, this feels like it's long-term booking, long-term storytelling, because when Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel were part of Miz's faction, at least Miz's group, whatever. He talk about promising to make them stars and make them famous, whatever. And so now that many of us already know, Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy, and so this is you pretty much say that this is sort of his payback, if you will. As far as that, so of course, just to see this long-term storyline, sort of manifested, if you will. As far as that, I was like, all right, cool. That definitely just see some of those seeds planted. And then of course, last but not least, we have the women's tag. But at the same time, I will say that there's a sense of vulnerability that the YS6 now have. I would say maybe it's a little too soon to get rid of that mystique, if you will. Then next up, we have the women's tag team championship match. Of course, not even interference from Nia Jackson and Tiffany Stratton could result in new women's tag team champions as Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill successfully retained their tag titles against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez in Monday's main event. Even with last week, with the way that with the way that Liv tried to sow seeds of discord between Bianca and Jade, only for Bianca, as I said before, to smack the sonic rings out of Liv's mouth. And of course, Liv and Raquel, they swore up and down that they were going to become the new women's tag champs. Only for her plan to backfire, as the match was relatively short. As we saw, the champs definitely benefit from a well-timed save from Naomi to pick up the win. And of course, after that, there was a brawl that took place with Io Sky rushing to the aid of rushing to the aid of Bianca, Jade, and Naomi. And I like how Bianca and Jade gave Nia a double suplex. And so it's great to see the champs, along with Naomi and Io, stand tall to close out the show. And of course, I think it's become pretty evident that now Triple H is really starting to pay attention to the backlash that he has received online from the fans, especially after that I don't see color comment. You know what I mean? And I guess he's starting to show that he's actually paying attention, that he's listening. But of course, there was little to this match. Most of the important developments come afterwards. And of course, we can see that Triple H and the creative team, are making sure that to set the stage for the Women's War Games match. That'd be a very interesting match. Just as the other Women's War Games matches have been before. So of course, the commentary team also noted that Bianca Belair is the winning superstar in all of WWE in 2024 with 23 victories. Another potential Jade matchup will be with Raquel Rodriguez as well. You know what I mean? And Naomi, rushing in to assist Bianca and Jade. It makes a lot of sense. Of course, dates back to the big three team up at WrestleMania 40. So if anything, that you could definitely tell that that looks like these team ups are pretty much set for the most part when it comes to the future of War Games. But yeah, of course that's my review of Monday Night Raw, and of course last week was NXT in Philadelphia, which is ECW NXT. It was great to see. Sorry about that. It was certainly great to see Trick Williams team up with Bubba Ray Dudley, and of course for Trick and Bubba to become victorious. And it was of course it was great to see that the callback of like old school Dudley Boys callback as Devon came out and brought the table. And so of course for those that know how the Dudley Boys are, the rest, right? And Booker T even got his own honorary Dudley Boy glasses. You know what I mean? And so of course when it comes to Trick Williams, the Dudley Boys do not play at all. Well, of course when it comes to him, you know what I mean? And as far as that, like I said, there's a lot of ECW callbacks last week, but now it's time to move on to this week's NXT. Of course, we see Julia and Stephanie Valkyrie versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. The winners by pinfall, Julia and Stephanie Valkyrie. And there have been talks, rumbles going on that Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson could be moving to the main roster. And you can definitely tell that they've been growing by leaps and bounds with their development and growth in NXT. But of course, also at the same time, you see these newcomers who are firmly established in other companies such as Julia and Stephanie Valkyrie. Of course, get the much needed win. And so after the finish, Blake Howard asked Stephanie Valkyrie and Julia about the Iron Survivor Challenge. Of course, both of them welcome the chance to fight one another in that match. Next up, we have Vignette Jada Parker let it warn that she'll be the next Iron Survivor. Then we have the Iron Survivor qualifying match with Cora Jade versus Sol Ruka, and the winner of this match, Sol Ruka, by way of pinfall, to qualify for the women's Iron Survivor Challenge. And of course, sorry about that. So yeah, as far as that, then we also have the Iron Survivor qualifying match with Wesley versus Cedric Alexander. The winner of that match by pinfall, Wesley, to advance for the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. And sorry about that. And of course, let's see. Also, one of the things that I forgot to mention as far as our last week's ECW NXT, we also saw our RVD help Javon Evans defeat Wesley. And of course, as far as that, And of course, um, you know, last week was like I said once again, like I said, last week's NXT and ECW Green was absolutely amazing. But of course, afterwards you see like just a little brief little recap, if you will, just for the sake of time. But of course, we see Trick Williams announcing the number one contenders match between Andre Chase and Rich Holland. And so, of course, Andre Chase interrupted Trick Williams to make clear that he wants a shot at Rich Holland. Trick was ready to offer Chase an NXT Championship match. And of course, this caused Holland to march out. Of course, Trick made a number one contender match, next week between Chase and Rich Holland. Of course, Holland also wanted Chase U to end if he defeated the Professor. Then he goes on to give Andre a cheap shot, only for Trick to retaliate and attack Rich himself. And of course, our Trick solidified it that Andre Chase and Rich Holland will have a number one contenders match. And next up we also see some of that. We also saw Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne via hail question Chase's decision backstage. Of course, Andre promised that he would end up winning big. The next up we have Nikita Lyons versus Adriana Rizzo, and the winner of this match, other than Nikita Lyons. However, at the end, Nikita did not exactly look like a winner because at the end, it was Rizzo who was ultimately left standing. The next up, we have our Survivor qualifier match with Javon Evans, the young OG, versus Lexis King, and the winner of this match by way of pinfall, the young OG Javon Evans, aka Black 123 Kid. Then we also have the Women's North American Championship match, Fallon Henley versus Kalani Jordan, and the winner by way of pinfall, Fallon Henley. And of course, the promise of fatal influence is definitely playing out. Of course, as all three women have leveled up with the championship involved, and so and the thing is, JC Jane is no stranger when it comes to being in a three-woman faction because, as we all know, she was 1/3 of Toxic Attraction. Of course, with former NXT Women's Champion and former WWE talent Mandy Rose, as well as Gigi Dolan. So it's almost like history repeating itself when it comes to JC Jane. And so, of course, the first match that we saw definitely proved that there was great chemistry between Fallon Henley and Kalani Jordan. And so this time, this definitely where of course, this is definitely things were kicked up a notch. Excuse me. But of course, Fallon Henley could not afford to lose. The NXT definitely shown a clear trust in Kalani as a performer, and so of course, she showed why she could retain her gold, also making Fallon Henley look much more like a dangerous threat as a champion. And we continue to see the growth of fatal influence as the championship is involved. So of course, like I said, winner by way of pinfall, none other than Fallon Henley. So as far as that, of course, NXT continues to deliver on a consistent basis on the CW, and it's definitely something that I'm always proud to see. And so, something that we're coming back to. You know what? As a matter of fact, another thing that I also have to mention before I go any further, Rhea Ripley, of course, made a return, but with one of those plastic face masks that you have to see NBA players wear after they had their nose broken or or something happened with their eye or whatever. You know what I mean? So of course, as far as excuse me, but of course, of course, thankfully, of course, thankfully, Rhea finally came back. Um, but at the same time, it's just like no matter what, lately she has not been able to catch a break. Um, so so of course, like I said, it's great to see. Um, excuse me, that that Rhea came back sooner rather than later. You know what I mean? So of course that pretty much covers it when it comes to my WWE coverage. And so, all right. So now, one of the things that I definitely want to, of course, as I said before, at the beginning of this episode, um, one of the things I definitely want to cover was this past weekend, I got a chance to see the Luther Vandross documentary, Never Too Much, that was produced by CNN. And it, of course, been out for exclusive release. And I got to see it at the American Film Institute, the AFI Theater in Silver Spring, of course. As far as that, and I must say that that the audience packed out big time. They did not disappoint. They did not like I said, they did not disappoint one bit at all. And so it was an amazing experience, amazing environment. You know what I mean? And to witness the story of a very remarkable career. So of course, to see that Luther's hand was was intertwined in so many different things. There are certain parts of his story that I'm familiar with, certain ones that I was not as familiar with before. I know that he grew up as a fan of mostly the women artists, such as Diana Ross and the Supremes, Dionne Warwick, Aretha Franklin, so on and so forth, right? And so he was so enamored by their presentation that he wanted to implement that, when it came to him as a performer. And so, so of course, the documentary talks about his beginnings with this group that him and his childhood friends started to call it "Listen, My Brother" or something. You know what I mean? So as far as that, and as a matter of fact, I like how they transition to that to that appearance on the very first episode of Sesame Street. So of course, and the thing is, sorry for the background noise, excuse me. But of course, I do know that that Luther Vandross and his group back when he was 18 guest appeared on the very first episode of Sesame Street. While of course they're singing, obviously they're singing on ABCs and 1, 2, 3, and everything like that. And it was very telling, very very telling how they talked about even that early in Luther's career, that he was not exactly the big shot in the group, only because of the fact that from an image standpoint, Luther was a target. And even then, there were concerns about his health. Even then, at that point in his career, at that point in his life, they were talking about, talking about the glaring concerns, and from an aesthetic standpoint, because of the fact that he was black and overweight, and with an image like that, you can only go but so far, right? And so, of course, that talking point became one of the one of the footnotes of Luther's legacy, right? And of course, I already know about the history of him being one of David Bowie's background singers. I like how they went into detail about it. How he was a background singer for this song that David did called "Young Americans," and how open David was to diversity. Let me put it this way: David Bowie was everything that Justin Timberlake pretends to be. We talk about white artists, their allies, if you will, that want to be allies. David was definitely one of them. Like I said, David Bowie, he definitely knew. Let me put it this way: he understood the assignment. His track record speaks for itself when it comes to his history with black artists, collaborating with black artists. Obviously, he was married to a black woman, a black supermodel, and of course, it turned out for the better for him and his career and his life and everything like that. But yeah, like I said, if anything, that's the type of music that David Bowie always gravitated to the point where he even called that MTV for the racism. So what I mean. So like we talk about artists and want to see what type of allies they were. Like I say, if anything, like I said, if anything, David Bowie definitely lived that out. Like I said before, David Bowie was everything that Justin Timberlake wished that he could be. I'm just going to leave it at that, but that's another story. But anyway, Luther collaborated with him, wrote songs with him. He did vocal arrangements and things like that. As far as that, and of course, Luther also toured with. He also toured with Bette Midler. You know what I mean? Like he toured with her. Sung, as a matter of fact, he sung background for a lot of people. Roberta Flack. You know what I mean? Chic. Like I said, not only did he sing background for them, but he was actually a writer on a lot of their songs. As a matter of fact, he was background for pretty much like all of the songs on like their debut album or something, right? And so it was great to see that his name was credited. And this was back in the 70s. And Luther even had his own band named after him. It's just called Luther. And so, of course, that was his way of letting people know, that he was pretty much the main one in charge on doing the singing, doing the writing, and stuff like that. So, the reflex from him, even then, and even vocally, this dude was constantly flexing on people, and of course, he wanted everybody to know. And also, as I said before, of course, he worked with Roberta Flack. He used to do commercial jingles, and it got to the point where Roberta Flack saw that he was getting a little too comfortable, being a songwriter, singing background, and he claims that she allegedly, in a nice way, kind of fired him. But she just, encouraged him to pursue his goals and his dreams, and really encourage him to pursue working on his own eventual debut album, which he did. And the album absolutely blew up, you know what I mean? And he's definitely getting critical worldwide acclaim and things like that. And as I mentioned before, when it came to his weight, of course, that was definitely a huge talking point even then, to the point where he became a target to the point where he became a target for Eddie Murphy when Eddie did his comedy special Delirious. So Eddie was talking about how Luther was this big dude that liked to sing with women and eat a whole bunch of KFC and stuff like that. Just that kind of thing. So if anything, this is my favorite part of the documentary. because clearly Luther heard about it. So what he did was, thankfully, he had a great sense of humor, right? And so what he did as a way of clapping back at Eddie was um, at one of his concerts, Luther came out, had this huge prop, and the prop was this giant bucket of KFC. And so he comes out and says, there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk about me lately. Don't think that I don't know about it, right? He says, and I don't want to let Eddie Murphy down. And then he starts singing this KFC jingle with him, right? And I was like, oh man, this was like I said, Luther's sense of humor was right there, and just how sharp he was. You know what I mean? And so like I said, I think that was like my favorite moment of the documentary. But yeah, but of course they go into his catalog, and just it's amazing how deep this dude's catalog was, and how he's has so many bangers after bangers after bangers. And but the only thing about it was that, unfortunately, even with, it's like Luther's best years, I would say, were in the 80s. But the only thing about it was that he was pigeonholed to specifically for mainly being played on black radio. Nothing wrong with being on black radio. Nothing wrong with being being supported by your people. But it comes to a certain point where you want to branch out. Want to branch out and reach a larger market. So he talked about that. He talked about the struggles that Luther faced when it came to breaking past that sort of R&B ceiling, if you will, and want to be an even bigger commercial star than he was, right? And he felt as though the record labels and executives and stuff like that treated him in a very racist way, to where like when you go to record stores, they'll have the black albums like all the way in the back, where with the record stores, just dirty and moldy and stuff like that, it becomes a turnoff for customers. Like, do I really want to shop here and get my music from here? And so of course things like that will ultimately have an impact on your sales. And so Luther was also nominated year after year during the 80s. He had 9 Grammy nominations. He was constantly being turned down, whether he was competing with Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Lionel Richie. There was even one year where he even lost out to James Brown. But then again, this is James Brown we're talking about. So, but the point is, like Luther's best years, I would say, he had been greatly overlooked. And so it wasn't until he finally got the Grammy for the song "Here and Now." And even when he was on tour, he was just so proud of it. They even brag about it on tour. Just as he was singing. And so, but yeah, like I said, as far as that, Luther even expressed some of his frustrations, in interviews with Arsenio and others, right? And so, of course, as far as that, eventually he did become a Grammy winner. I think 3 times Grammy winner. I go back over and see again, but yeah, like I said, as far as that, just some of the hurdles that he had, and also, of course, the terrible story where he was in a car accident, where he survived, but the passenger ended up dying. And so, at this point, this was when Luther was going through his weight loss transformation. They definitely spent a lot of time talking about that, and how he just looked like a completely different person almost overnight. Where so many people didn't even recognize it was him. And so, and then the thing is, and of course, he course, even with the accident, um, that ended up taking a toll on from a psychological standpoint. So that over time, he ends up putting that weight back on. Right, he got to a point where he didn't even want didn't want his record label or anybody to talk about the weight. Where it was just just putting depression, packing the weight back on. So it's like almost like a yo-yo, up and down, up and down. Um, as far as far as his health, as far as weight was concerned, and you know, um, say what I mean, like I said, as far as that, I know that ultimately became so much of a huge talking point when it came to him, and it just like to the point where they said that um, Luther had been shrunken down to just a topic of his weight rather than his music, right? Um, and it was very unfortunate. And it talked about, how he had achieved everything that he wanted to achieve, but never found true love, you know. And it talked about, like also, in terms of the rumors about his sexuality, and you know, and of course, of course, he said I never neither confirm nor deny. And if anybody would have asked me, he'd say it was like it was another business or whatever. But also with the way it was edited, they're talking about how Luther, had, to how Luther had certain people close to him, certain confidants, whoever I guess that knew about it, but was still like uh, talk about it behind his back, or he's not around or whatever. And the way they edited it, they had this clip of Patti LaBelle talking about it on Andy Cohen. I was like, man, it's a good thing Luther's not around today, because 'cause I'm not sure if Patty would have kept that same energy, had he still been around. To be honest with you, but yeah, and also I like how they showed the performance that he, like a tribute performance that he had for Dionne Warwick at the when she was being honored by the NAACP when Dionne received her NAACP Image Award. And so Luther Vandross had performed "The House Not a Home," which was her version of her song. But she, of course, Dionne has gone on record. She has gone on record and said that his version is the definitive version of that song. Even though she was the one that wrote it and originally performed it. Of course, Dionne Warwick herself has confirmed, like she went on this, like pretty much pass the torch and say that that Luther's version of "The House Not a Home" is now the definitive version. And of course, one of the big things that he talked about also, was how he was known to do a lot of cover songs, and with the way he would do cover songs, is that he just sort of like slow it down, and the biggest one, especially, I would say that it's my favorite Luther song, was the song "Superstar," and they showed how how it was originally a song by a group called the Carpenters, um, and so on. But of course, that was back in the '70s, and of course, their version was faster. But Luther took that same song, slowed it down, made it his own, and I would say made it the definitive version of that song, the most famous version of that song. And they even showed the original performance from like back in 1983. Of course, that's when the song first came out. And to see that footage, to see him in his element sing that song, I thought that was absolutely brilliant. It was amazing. And so, like I say, of course, sadly, of course, at the very end, they talked about, like his resurgence, back in like 2001, he came out and of course did the song "Take You Out Tonight." Of course, he rejuvenated. And of course, like later on, his last really big hit, the song "Dance with My Father." Um, you know, and of course, that was at the time that that they won another Grammy for that song, and this is sort of like in the twilight years of his career, if you will. Um, and unfortunately, he couldn't really enjoy that success because he ended up having a stroke, and that stroke definitely brought him to his knees from a physical standpoint, and you know, um, robbed him of his voice. And to see that last interview with Oprah was sad to watch. It was horrible. Someone who, um, as strong as he was, and as someone who had the kind of sharp wit that he had, someone who, who was very quick with the tongue. Um, when it came to one-liners, and when it came to just a sense of humor, and just like like I said, um, when it came to his interviews and things like that, he was he's always very just sharp and right on point. Um, and then to have a stroke and be robbed of that was hard. Um, and the last interview with Oprah was 2004, and then in 2005, um, uh, he ends up dying. And he talked, of course, his longtime friends talked about um, how Luther was, and just his very last days, if you will, and just it was rough. He was only 54. If he was still alive, he would have been 73. Um, and posthumously, uh, he had a star. Of course, he received his star in the Walk of Fame posthumously, of course. Um, but like I said, like I said, the thing is, Luther Vandross um, had a voice like no other. They even had Jamie Foxx on there, uh, reminiscing about uh, how he would play Luther's music to whatever girl he was interested in. Just use Luther, um, as sort of like a proverbial pickup line. If anything, if you want to shoot your shot, if you want to get your Mac on, just play some Luther. And Jamie was a prime example of that. So yeah, like I said, overall, it's a very impressive documentary. Like I said, if anything, I would recommend it to anybody. And now, last but not least, I believe I've covered all ground, as much ground as I can cover. I was just, of course, the trailer for Captain America: Brave New World came out, and it has been superb, stellar. Like, this is opening weekend type of movie. You know, uh, Marvel definitely went to the bag with this one, and especially with that trailer with Cap versus the Red Hulk, and that played, of course, with that callback of the issue of Captain America where the Hulk hits the shield. And so, to see that side by side with the trailer, I was like, that's absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to see what Red Hulk is going to do. You know what I mean? And really just what Cap himself is going to do. Especially with it taking place during Black History Month. You have a Black Captain America. Marvel knows what they're doing when it comes to those Black Marvel dollars. You know what I mean? And also, speaking of that, last but not least, Denzel Washington has confirmed, that he is looking to wrap up the rest of his career with several projects, not just with Gladiator 2, but with Othello. I forgot what the other project was in between that. But the major talking point is the fact that he confirmed that Ryan Coogler has written a script for him for Black Panther 3. So that is a major, major bombshell. For Denzel Washington to confirm that he will be a part of Black Panther 3. Then after that, he's he's going to, you know, give his final curtain call and call it a career and retire. Yeah, that's a shakeup. And also, Storm. Speaking of Black Panther, on let's say as far as that. Speaking of Black Panther, of course, on the it's been confirmed that in the very last season of What If, Storm will make an appearance, and she will Mjolnir. Not only that, but of course, they also had Storm's voice actors from the X-Men animated series, along with X-Men '97. You know, so those are some of the main talking points. You know, some of the main news and headlines when it comes to wrestling, as well as when it comes to pop culture, when it comes to movies, as well as as well as in the world of Marvel. And so, but yeah, you know, that is pretty much it when it comes to this week's episodes. I mean, well, not this week's episode, but the episode itself. And so, let's see. But yeah, you know. So, and also, I have to say that that today is also the 19-year anniversary of the passing of one Eddie Guerrero. Rest in peace, R.I.P. to Eddie. And so, like I said, and so, some of that, you know, of course, so of course, without further ado, some of the, you know, some of the other notable birthdays that I forgot to mention. SZA, SZA celebrated her birthday this past week as she turned 35. You know, of course, West Coast hip hop legend Warren G turned 54. Of course, on November 10th, Cowboy Bob Orton turned 74. Friend of the program, Stan Michael turned 34. Leo Rush turned 30. LA Knight turns 40. LA Knight turns 42. Billy Gunn turns 61. And of course, when it comes to November 15th, you know, when it comes to November 15th, E40 turns 57. ODB, Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan, would have turned 56. And of course, the late great Macho Man Randy Savage would have turned 72. And of course, that number doesn't when it comes to this week's birthdays. And so and of course, my word of wisdom is that it's important to of course it's important for our children to be taught how to tell the truth. And the thing is, if we can get them to participate in sports, then we also get them to participate in church. And I mean, and of course, also, like, if we could train them up when it comes to, you know, when it comes to things such as sports, athletics, and things like that, and other extracurricular activities, then they could be taught the principles of God, and you know, also and just like I said, for their character to be strengthened, you know. So it's all about teaching the next generation on how to have a relationship with God, how to have stronger character, as well as, you know, you know, just teaching them how to tell the truth, and be mindful, because when you lie, they pick that up. You know, the reason why they're so good at lying is because they see the adults lie. So be very mindful. You know, walk in truth, walk in integrity, because you never know who's watching. So that is my word of wisdom. And of course, you are victorious, because greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. When you put God in first place, you don't have to worry about being in last place. Please make sure to listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else that you download podcasts. And of course, thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for watching. And of course, once again, like I said, if you put God in first place, you don't have to worry about being in last place. And like I said, once again, thank you very much for listening, watching another episode, and may this day be the very best day